What's up, y'all? I think I got a really, really good one for you. Now that the tamale lady said I look like a white man, I thought, well, I might as well be Obi-Wan Kenobi. I used to be homie Juan Kenobi. Anyways, this is a really good one, and it could be a great one if you end up going to the link in the description and either reading the transcript of the podcast or listening to the podcast. The link is to a Bay Area like news outlet, KQED. And so it's public radio. And so the story is that, and again, if you click on the link, you'll get what I'm going to tell you plus more. And you don't got to listen to me. But the story is that 75 years ago, in January 27, I believe, there was a plane crash, and it's one of the worst ones in California history. Aboard the plane were 3 people: a pilot, a flight attendant, a border patrol agent who were white, and 28 Mexican people who were being deported back to Mexico. They were here legally as part of the Bracero program, but their work contracts had expired, and so now they were being deported back. And the plane, it said it only had one wing, so it was spiraling and did a nose first hit, and so everybody died. And the white passengers, the pilot, flight attendant, and border patrol agent, were sent back to their homes so that their family could have closure and bury them, which is the right thing to do. The loss of their lives is their family suffered too. But the Mexican passengers were all pushed into a mass grave that was unmarked in Fresno. And so when the news reported on it, they reported that, the 3 people who were white and had died by name. And then they said, and the other passengers were 28 deportees. So even back then, that must have seemed callous, because a gentleman named Mr. Guthrie wrote a song, who are these my friends, or why my friends are scattered like leaves. The news, who are these my friends scattered like leaves? The news says they're just deportees. And so in the KQED podcast, they go on to name like 10 people that have sung this folk song and are famous people. One was Dolly Parton, that stood out for me. And then several other like really well-known people have sung this folk song, and it's been in existence for 60 years, the song, right? And so you fast forward 60, 70 year period, and this guy, Tim Hernandez, an author, starts investigating like the plane crash and who were these Mexican people that perished and got put in an unmarked grave. And, so he started looking for answers. Who were these friends of ours, that were just labeled deportees? They were not valued enough for their names to be read like the names of the white passengers were read. And so as part of his investigation, he kind of he casts a wide net to see if anyone has any ties to that accident. And he hears back from a guy in Fresno who, I believe they either owned a restaurant, and then through them he met another group, or he met a farm worker and his son they were both farm workers that were connected to one of the passengers. And so once they connect, the first family he met tells him, look, in Mexico, there was this old newspaper article that had the names of everybody, and we kept it. And it had where they had lived. And maybe the newspaper article wasn't in Mexico, it was in Fresno, but it was a like Spanish language newspaper. So it wouldn't have been like one of the regular publications, but something like La Voz or, the Spanish newspapers that kind of cater to specific communities. And a lot of times they're circulated through the church. And so that had published all their names and where they had lived. And so this Vato Tim Hernandez was kind of taken aback that the first family he met had the information he was looking for all the rest of them. And he still hasn't found the families of all of them. But through that list, he found this other family. And I believe those were the farm worker father and son that decided they wanted to dedicate their time to finding the families for all of them. And, through a lot of work and whatnot, they have tracked down a lot of them. And they had this event honoring their passing in East Los Angeles. And, the description is, there's a lot of actors and poets and activists. And they said the names of all the people who had passed away that were being deported, and then the audience would yell presente, kind of like when someone is killed by the police and they go say their name. It's akin to that. And so where the story goes from there is how they start meeting people who had ties to the families, who were family members of the people that passed away and were Mexican. And they start then sharing stories and giving a story and a life to someone who at one point was just a deportee. And some of the stories are really heartwarming. That's where I'm going to stop this and encourage you to check out the link in the description to hear the whole story. But, it's family members who knew they were coming back. One of the deportees' family says that he wasn't tripping. He had made some money here and was coming back and was going to propose. He told her, when I come back, now that I got money, I'm going to marry you. And then he died in the accident. And then there's other stories. The unmarked mass grave now has a marker, and they have the names of all the people. So, either members of the family or descendants of people who were killed in that plane crash, or just raza that have a love for history and justice and their people, pushing to give dignity to them, even though they've been dead for 75 years. And so I thought the story was really moving. I genuinely hope you check it out. I was trying to keep this positive, but I'll say that it was really refreshing to listen to that podcast and not the pinche mitote on YouTube, man. There's a lot of fucking monkey mouthing on there. And having listened to this, I thought, man, just the difference in quality and value to a person is night and day. And so I'm not talking about me, because I'd be bullshitting about, or not bullshitting, but telling stories to be funny and whatnot. And this was, it was a very worthwhile listen for me. So I hope you take the time to check it out. It doesn't do nothing for me. I think it'll do something for you. That said, much love. Happy Friday. It's 7 o'clock, and looking forward to a good weekend. Much love.